Hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a very interesting show set up for you. Yep, Humpty Dumpty is I'm a little bit afraid for Ole Miss going into this game, and it's LSU and really Florida running the Egg Bowl. This should be a time of great rejoicing for Ole Miss. They're almost certainly going to get in the playoff regardless of whether they win the Egg Bowl or not. And going into this, you would think they'd be feeling very confident. The problem is they don't know what Lane Kiffin's going to do. Is he going to be with them after the Egg Bowl, which is at noon tomorrow? And they're going to have those cowbells ringing loud. Wow, are they going to play those things? Oh, it's going to be awful. But unfortunately for Ole Miss, this is a very frustrating season because it should be glorious. I mean, they're 10-1, one of the best seasons ever in the history of Ole Miss. Will end up being the best season, especially going into the playoff. They got a chance to have a home game, which is worth tons of money to their community. And Lane won't sign an extension, and it looks like he's not going to. That's what it appears to me. You've got two bullies that came in, and they're fighting over Lane. That's basically what it boils down to. And Florida was in the catbird seat, pole position, to snag Lane away from Ole Miss. And then LSU came in there and just bumped him right out of the way and said, we got more money than you do. Watch this. We'll do whatever it takes. And I would have thought Florida would have been more desperate to pony up the dough. But if it's the same, it may be that Lane has decided that LSU is a better job than Florida, which Florida's a great job, but LSU is a unique one. When you can take over the whole state of Louisiana, which is filled with blue chip recruits, and you get all the NIL money and all the attention, Florida can't quite compete for that because they've got Miami and Florida State in their region. And even though Florida's a bigger state and growing like crazy, it's just you're splitting it between three different fan bases all in one state. So Lane has tried to be as coy as he can be about this entire situation, getting a little grumpy with the reporters that have to ask the question, have you made a decision? And he wants to coach through the playoff, but there's no way Ole Miss can let him do that. So at least they'll force a decision and make him, what you going to do? And something happened in the last 24 hours that makes me think that LSU has him. And that's this right here. Eli Drinkwitz agrees to a contract extension. He's getting his annual salary up to $10.7 million per year. So he's killing it. And I believe it's a 6-year contract extension, big raises. And there's been talk that Eli Drinkwitz was certainly in the running for the LSU job. And here's the thing that makes me think they must have Lane. Jimmy Sexton is Eli Drinkwitz's agent. He's also Lane Kiffin's agent. And I would think that if Eli was interested in that job, which LSU is it's the premier job that's out there right now. I would put it LSU, Florida, Penn State, Auburn, then probably Arkansas on down the line. And it also appears that Alex Golish is going to be taking the Arkansas job, which I think is a great get for Arkansas. You're going to get the Josh Heupel type offense and a guy that's used to dealing with not having a lot down there at SFU. But with Eli taking that extension, he probably realizes that LSU job's not going to be available. If I had to guess, Jimmy probably would have steered him to, hey, you might want to wait a day or two because you only got to wait till Saturday. And he didn't. And I just would think that if Eli was interested in moving, he would at least wait until LSU made him an offer because then Missouri would offer him the world if they wanted to keep him. So that's one of the reasons I think he's going to LSU. And one guy that sums it up perfectly as far as what happened to Florida in this search and being pretty much knocked out of the pole position for Lane, he's starting to read the tea leaves that it's going to be close for them to really have a shot at it. Now, I feel like it's LSU, but I'm sure he still feels like that Florida still has a shot. But they would have had almost a lock if Lane left Ole Miss, if LSU hadn't come in. And I think he sees that. Is Locked On Gators, I mean, he just listen to what he says here.
Just to revisit things, from the moment Florida fired Billy Napier, it was pretty public that Florida was going to target Lane Kiffin to replace Billy Napier. That was very public. That was very out there. It's like, hey, Lane Kiffin's target number one. And he's going to be that until he's not. Like, until he says no, he's going to be target number one for Florida. You can go back a few weeks ago. I guess we'll say like 3 weeks at this point, whenever Brian Kelly got fired. Before Brian Kelly got fired, Florida was, I mean, at that point, sitting pretty, right? It was Florida or Ole Miss. Those seemed to be the two options that were available. Brian Kelly got fired, and then LSU threw their wrench into it. And, you know, if you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a ball, right? And so Florida need to dodge that wrench. And then LSU got into this. And since then, if you speak to someone on the LSU side, they're going to tell you LSU feels really confident. Honestly, I'll say this. Too confident. Like, if we're going to be honest, and we'll talk about the facts in a little bit, but too confident. The fact that it's been every day now, basically, and we get someone from LSU going, a deal's done. The deal's done. Yeah, we got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Deal's done. Again, today. Announcement coming again today. And then every night it's like, oh, not today. Not happening today. So really interesting there. I just want to throw that out there. That seems to be how it happens with the LSU side of they're really confident. And look, I'm not saying confidence is a bad thing, right? Because Florida's side of things, also very confident. They've just not been as loud.
I think there's a certain number of people at Florida internally that are confident, but they've pretty much taken the poll or the pulse of all the writers and reporters and the people that are attached to this, and I'll show you the results. And this was an On3 poll, and as you can see, virtually, well, the majority of them picked LSU. Only Matt Berry and Chris Doering, and Chris Doering, I think, wants to change his pick. So that would leave you with only Matt Berry with picking Florida out of this entire group of individuals. And here you can see out of the grand total of the 80 on 3, 59 picked LSU, 17 picked Ole Miss, 5 picked Florida, 2 picked Tennessee, and then 1 for Alabama. I have no idea why. But as you can see, it's heavy LSU. Now, I've been at 75 LSU, 20 Ole Miss, 5 Florida. And Florida's been dropping. But I have not eliminated Florida because I've talked to enough people that say the internal people at Florida are confident. Now, are they falsely confident? That's certainly possible. Florida's been known to do that, especially in recruiting. But I can't eliminate them. I certainly can't eliminate Ole Miss, even though the Ole Miss YouTubers and a lot of the fans are like, crap. I mean, they're dejected at this point because they feel like Lane's really letting them down. Here we are going into this big game, and he won't commit. So we're going to find out in the next 48 hours. We're going to find out Saturday because they've put a deadline on him that, hey, we've got to know something because you can't just string us along and then all the best coaches are gone. I mean, you still got John Summerall out there. He's interested in Auburn. He's also maybe interested in Ole Miss. He needs to know. Ole Miss needs to know. They'd love to get Summerall if Lane leaves. They'd love for Lane to just sign the daggone extension. They'll match, but they may not be able to match the NIL or they may not be able to justify it to Deloitte. Whereas LSU would have an easier time, even though I'm sure Deloitte's going to wear them out, which will lead to lawsuits and all that. But that's a story for another day. But Humpty Dumpty, we'll see if he has a big fall tomorrow. It's hard to say. Mississippi State's not an easy team. And if Ole Miss, if they're not focused, if they start getting distracted over all this craziness, you could lose because those cowbells can get to you. But anyway, I'm picking LSU as who I think he picks. Florida, whether they go to Jed Fish or John Summerall, I mean, it's still a great job. Florida's a great job. Obviously, Eli Drinkwitz is out, and I think he was a possible second choice for Florida. So a lot of dominoes are getting ready to fall. As soon as he decides, that's when you're just going to start seeing them plink, 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 and it will probably happen really fast. I'm talking 24 hours, 48, 72. You're going to start seeing pieces fall and coaches get picked up. Anyway, I did want to cover that today. Also, I hope y'all had a great Thanksgiving. I'm going to show you a few pictures here at the end where we had our big family meal. And I did this last year. I showed y'all some of the pictures of the food and everything. And I know folks like to see that sometimes. Anyway, happy Thanksgiving, and we will see what happens tomorrow. Everybody's going to be watching the Egg Bowl. There will be more people watching the Egg Bowl than has ever watched it in the history of Ole Miss and Mississippi State football. And we'll see about Humpty Dumpty. If you like this content, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Lets me know continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, boom, and boom. Hit that little button right there. Will not cost you a dime. And right over here is the most recent video, YouTube. Thanks, you'll enjoy. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.
You surprised? Surprised, Eddie? If I woke up tomorrow with my head sewn to the carpet, I wouldn't be more surprised than I am right now.